I am not happy to say that my excitement level this year is very low. It's very low.
I cannot recommend to you to buy WWE 2K20. I think objectively that this is not a very good game.
And I sat down to play it and I went, this sucks. I really wanted to like WWE 2K20.
WWE 2K20. I do not like this game. I think this game is so bad that it's already dead.
Hey, so yeah, I don't know if anyone remembers me, but my name is Johnny fucking Moxley. I used to be called Dino fucking Ambrose, and the only reason I mention that is because a couple years ago, when my name was DFA, I uploaded a video talking about why I think 2K should stop making the WWE video games. I don't think 2K is a good company for these games. I don't think they care enough. And basically I went into full depth in that video. You can check it out. It is pretty old. I feel like it's dated, and my editing skills and just overall presentation has gotten a lot better. But I poured my heart into that video, and it got a lot of views. It has over 200,000 views, and here we are. WWE 2K21 has officially been canceled. Now, I'm just going to say this right off the bat. This is not going to be a WWE 2K20 rant. Everybody and their mother has talked about how awful this game is. That's not what I'm here for. I'm sure you already assume that I don't like it. Of course I don't like it. But again, that's not what I'm here for. I'm really here to talk about why I think the franchise couldn't afford a WWE 2K20. They just couldn't afford to have a game like this. In my personal opinion, ever since 2K replaced THQ as the publishing company for the WWE games, they have not been good. Let's just put it that way. To keep it nice, to keep it light, to not be too harsh, I just don't think they've been great. So, bear with me here. There's no real script. I've got some bullet points of things I want to talk about, but this is going to be very relaxed, very chilled out, and I just want to go over the rise and fall of WWE games and what went wrong. So I kind of want to begin by telling my story. If you've seen my other 2K videos, you probably know that I don't hold back. I can be pretty harsh, I can be pretty critical, but it's because I care. It's coming out of a place of love. And when I see WWE games in a bad state, if I don't like them and they're not very good, I'm vocal about it. I don't really restrict anything that I say. I want people to know how I feel. I want 2K to know how I feel, especially them. And I just want to see the best game possible. And I know that they could be great because I've been playing these games for years. And that is kind of where the story begins. I want everybody right now to think about a tradition that you have. Now, I want you to pick a tradition that you've had since you were a kid. And it means a lot to you, and every single year, you look forward to this tradition. Because that tradition for me is the WWE games. I have been collecting the WWE games since I was, I believe, 8 years old. My first one that I ever got was WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, which, in my opinion, to this day, has still not been topped. It is the best WWE video game of all time. And every single year, I looked forward to buying the new WWE video game. I would save up my allowance money, make sure that I had enough, and then by the day that the new WWE game came out, I would beg my mom to drive me, just so I can get to GameStop, get my hands on it, come home, and play that shit till the cows come home. Every year I looked forward to that. Even just the trip going there and buying the game, I just loved everything about the experience. And the reason I would get so excited for each yearly game, keep in mind I'm a 2000s kid, so I grew up with the SmackDown vs. Raw series. Oh my god, kids today will never know, so sad. The reason I would get so excited for that is because every single game in the franchise was genuinely different, for good or for bad. They're all genuinely good games, but some are better than others, and you could count on a fresh take, a fresh game, a completely new game every year. No game was exactly the same. That's what was so great about that franchise, is they always consistently mixed it up. It was never stagnant or repetitive. So it was always really exciting when a new one was coming out, because you knew, oh my god, it's another new game. It's not going to be the same one as before. I gotta try it. I gotta get it. But slowly, that type of excitement started to fade away. If I could go back in time and tell 14-year-old me that in 2013, when I was buying WWE 2K14, that this would be the last time that I'd really enjoy a WWE video game that I'm buying, I would have been heartbroken. And I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, you just said WWE 2K14. Yes. Even though it's WWE 2K14, it's not really 2K's game. 2K bought the rights after THQ practically finished the game, so it's really THQ's game with 2K's name on it. And it shows, because the game was great. I love that game. That was the last one that I truly, really loved. WWE 2K14 will always be remembered as the last great WWE video game. And then everything changed. WWE 2K15 was announced, and it was going to be the very first WWE game on the next generation of consoles, on the PS4 and the Xbox One. And they hyped this up. Oh my god, there was so much hype going into WWE 2K15, because they promised with the new hardware, it's going to take the games to new levels that we've never even seen before, we could never even imagine. It's going to be the most realistic, insane, amazing game that we could possibly imagine. And everybody was so excited, especially after a hot WWE 2K14. Everybody was ready for WWE 2K15. They even announced My Career, which they do in the NBA games, and oh my god, everyone freaked out because we hadn't had a career mode in a WWE game in quite some time. Oh my god, it was just such an exciting time. And then the game finally came out, and it was the biggest piece of shit ever. If you search for letdown in the dictionary, the first thing that pops up is a picture of WWE 2K15. Pretty much everything in this game was downgraded from 2K14 except for the graphics. The game looked phenomenal. It was amazing. But everything else, holy shit, what a letdown. The game was so unbelievably limited compared to WWE 2K14. There were barely any match types, the roster was really small, they got rid of a ton of modes that were in previous games. It felt like a free trial version or a demo of a game or something. It didn't even feel finished. And then, My Career. Oh boy. My Career, the centerpiece of this game, was a complete failure. Holy shit. The entire time you play, which is about 16, 17 hours, is so boring. There's no real storylines. There's not really any voiceover. You just keep playing to live out these legendary moments that you think you're going to play through, kind of like a real career mode in previous games, because that's how it was in the Road to WrestleMania and stuff like that. But you don't. You just level up ridiculously early in your career, and then you end up just crushing guys for the rest of My Career with no storyline. It's so boring. It was so bad. Ugh, what a letdown. Horrible. Just horrible. And then for the actual gameplay portion of it. I'm not a fan. I don't like the simulation. When they talked about it being realistic, I thought it was going to be crazy good, but honestly, now looking at it, it's just not that good. At least it's not my cup of tea. Some people might like the simulation type style, but I tend to like more the arcadey type games. Like, I just like kind of like the SmackDown versus Raw type of gameplay a lot more than the realistic 2K type. It's just not that fun to me. But that's not saying there can't be a blend of both. To me, WWE 2K14 nailed a perfect blend between simulation and arcade style. To me, that was like perfect gameplay outside of like the super, over the top crazy gameplay like SmackDown versus Raw or Here Comes the Pain or something like that. I thought for playing online with other people, the WWE 2K14 gameplay was really, really good, just about perfect. But once WWE 2K15 arrived and it just switched over to complete simulation, it was just like, nah, Chief, this ain't fun. This ain't like, I feel like a turtle because it's just such slow, sluggish gameplay. And every match had to start with that stupid chain wrestling thing. Just, ugh, God. This was not a good game. This was not a good game, especially after how great 2K14 was. This was a huge step down, not what you want to see for the introductory game for the next generation of consoles. But I think a lot of people were kind of understanding and they forgave him. They're like, okay, it is the very first game on the next gen consoles. They have to pretty much rebuild everything from the ground up. They had a year of development for this game to get it on the shelves. There's going to be restrictions, and everybody understood that. So they're like, okay, first game was not great. You get a pass, 2K. You get a pass. We understand. Let's just hope next year's game is better. WWE 2K16. Here we go. 1 year later, 2K promises that this game is going to be a lot better than 2K15. They had more time to add stuff, more time to really get adjusted to the next generation of consoles. It's just going to be an overall improvement. And that really made me excited. So I was going into 2K16 not nearly as excited as I was for 2K15 because I just thought it was going to be great because of 2K14. But I trusted them and I said, okay, the WWE games have been great for a long time. We had one flop. It's going to be good. They promise it's going to be better. So I went into this pretty excited. Stone Cold Steve Austin was the cover star of WWE 2K16, and the game was really centered around his Showcase mode. Showcase mode is a game mode that 2K added once they started publishing the games, and basically it's just revisiting old storylines that previously occurred in WWE's history, and you just relive them in the games. But they didn't talk much about the My Career, and I think everybody was starting to get a little concerned, like, okay, they haven't spoken much about it. And usually when a game company doesn't talk about a certain thing, there's a reason for it. It's usually because they're avoiding it. So I didn't want to think that, but I kind of assumed that, okay, this is not good news for My Career. So I continued the tradition as I always did. I went to GameStop, bought the game, came home, and when I played it, I was amazed at how much not that different this is from 2K15. It was almost the exact same game, except just a little bit more updated. What really bothered me about this game is that they brought so many things that they got rid of in 2K15, brought them back, and considered them new features. No, they're not new. You just took them out and brought them back. That really pissed me off. And in fact, they still do this to this day. They still do that. They bring back stuff that they got rid of after 2K14. They're still bringing back stuff and considering it new. So as for the My Career, I was really hoping we get some improvement on this, and we didn't. And in my opinion, I actually thought the My Career in 2K16 was even worse than the 2K15 one, because it really wasn't any better. The only thing they added was that sometimes you'd have promos backstage with Renee Young. But there was still no voiceover. I mean, you could choose what you wanted to say in a promo, but it would just appear as a text box. And then after every single promo you did, Renee Young would end it with, "Well, there you have it. Back to you, Cole." I'm sure just by saying that, I just gave a lot of you Vietnam flashbacks. I'm sorry. And you could actually choose which titles you wanted to go after. But that's pretty much it. There was still no storylines. There was no motivation to keep playing. And it was just a whole lot longer than the 2K15 My Career. And honestly, that's not an improvement. That's just the opposite. Especially considering the level of boredom was extremely high. The gameplay was exactly the same. Exactly the same. It was not even touched. I couldn't believe just how incredibly similar this game was to 2K15, just a little bit more updated. It felt like a giant update. It didn't really even feel like a new game to me. I hate to say it, but once again, 2K let me down. This is now 2 years in a row, and I'm like, damn, I'm not used to not liking the games like this. Like, what's going on here? It was around this time that I caught myself quitting on the games pretty early. The longevity of the 2K games are not good, and I noticed this once I got to 2K16. I'm like, wow, these games are finished after, X amount of time, not that long. They've got a shelf life, and it's not that long, and I just thought back to how it used to be when I was a kid with SmackDown vs. Raw. I'm like, I could play those for months upon months, and they would never get boring, and I think one of the hugest contributing factors to that is General Manager Mode. General Manager Mode is the most popular game mode to ever grace WWE games. Everybody and their mother loved General Manager Mode. Everybody wants it back. And for some reason, to this day, they still have not brought it back. Why? Why 2K? I don't get it. I just don't get it. And in 2016, that's when the WWE brand split returned. So they literally had zero excuse for it not being in the game. So I'm like, okay, by the time 2K17 comes out, GM mode better be in the game. We need some more longevity to these games to keep them alive for a longer duration of time. So WWE 2K17 officially comes out, it hits the shelves, and in my mind, I'm just thinking, okay, third time's a charm, right? They've got to get a good game this time. Like, they've got 2 games now on the next-gen consoles. They've got a feel for it. They've got our feedback. They should be adjusted by now. They're going to get a good game. They should deliver. And I played it, and what do you know? It's the same game. Again. At this point, I'm getting mad. I'm like, dude, there's no way you just cash grabbed me for the 3rd year in a row. Updated roster, new cover star, new soundtrack. That's pretty much the 2K formula now for what changes every year in the new game. Seriously, they could have kept the same game every year and just updated it every year with a giant update and called it WWE 2K 15.3.4.56789. Because that's what it is. My career, same old shit. Gameplay, same old shit. Nothing has changed. Except they have removed Showcase Mode. And you want to know why they removed Showcase Mode? You want to know what their real reasoning was? Here we go. I'm going to tell you. This is a real quote from 2K themselves. We decided to take that effort and put it into modes our community requests that we keep improving. WWE Universe in my career. I haven't even talked about Universe mode yet. Oh my god. If there is one mode in the WWE games that just has to go, it's been in here way too long. This isn't even a 2K thing. This started with the SVR games. I still don't like it. Is WWE Universe mode. It is a poor man's general manager mode. I will never not think that. Now look, I do understand that there's a huge community of people that actually do enjoy the universe mode. And if you do, all power to you. That's great. But you cannot deny that they don't touch that shit. It's always been the same. It will always be the same, and they're never going to touch it. They never have, and they never will. And my career, they didn't improve shit. I just can't even fathom the level of laziness shown by 2K. They don't care at all. NBA is their baby. WWE is like their little side bitch that they get some extra money from on the side. They don't care. I'm laughing, but seriously, it breaks my heart. This used to be my favorite thing ever, buying the new game every year, and now I just don't even look forward to it anymore. The brand split is now back, but GM mode, once again, is nowhere to be found. So all I could really do is sit back and wait to see if it's going to be in next year's game. It became a waiting game with 2K, to see when are they going to actually start listening to the fans? When are they going to start proving that they actually love these games? And they're not just a corporate machine pushing them out every year for more money. The WWE Video Gamer Fanboy Cuckshill Collector's Edition buying ass bitch in me refused to believe that WWE would have such a team full of passionless clowns in charge of the games each year. It's still a hard pill to swallow. But it's unfortunately the truth. So going into WWE 2K18, there was absolutely no hype for me. I had gotten used to the routine of them being let down games. I was not a fan of this franchise. But for some dastardly reason, I could never get myself to just say, you know what? I'm going to take a pass on the game this year. I'm just not going to get it. You know why? You're probably asking me why. I don't even know why. I've been asking myself this question for years now. But I honestly think it's just because I have such a sentimental attachment to these games that even when they're bad, I want to be there because I've bought every single one of them since SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. I even have some of the classics like Here Comes the Pain and stuff like that. It's become such a part of who I am that I feel like I would be breaking the law of humanity by not getting one. That's how bad it is. I buy them out of habit. And it's just sad to me that that's the reason I still buy them. It's not because I genuinely enjoy the games. It's just that I feel a moral obligation to buy them to keep the streak alive, if you will. So I did end up buying WWE 2K18, and to no one's surprise, it was the same game again. I have to say though, this was the first year where there was a conscious effort made to improve the My career. They knew how much fans hated this mode, how much they're just taking a shit all over it saying it's a letdown. They genuinely tried to sort of improve it this year, but at the end of the day, it still wasn't that much better. They took inspiration from the SmackDown vs. Raw Road to WrestleMania, where you could kind of free roam backstage, but that's really it. The storylines are still minimal. There's not that much motivation to keep playing. It's just kind of an empty garage you run around. But at least it was something a little bit different. You could see the effort was being made. They at least tried. They broke the system a little bit. But especially with them removing Showcase Mode to quote-unquote improve the My career, They really didn't put a dent in anything. But again, at this point, it didn't let me down or anything. I was used to 2K under-delivering. It was expected. 2K18, to me, was kind of the point of no return. This is the point where I'm going, okay, we are 4 games in now, and they still can't really get their groove on with this franchise. They still have not warmed up to me, and apparently a lot of other people, because this was the year that got me to finally make the video, the why WWE 2K, it's got to end, why 2K's got to go. I made that video, and it blew the fuck up. It got over 200,000 views, and it has 5,000 likes and like 1,000 dislikes. So the majority of people agreed with me when I said, this franchise is not good. It was pretty much at this point where I started to realize, yeah, it's 2K. It's not WWE. It's certainly not Yuke's. They've been here through the good and the bad. It's 2K. 2K has no clue. They don't have the first idea of what it takes to make a good wrestling video game. They just don't get it. And there were a few 2K rants here and there on YouTube, but there wasn't like a really big, intricate, real WWE 2K just fucking sucks rant. So I'm like, you know what? I'm taking matters into my own hands. I'm gonna do it. This is the game that almost got me to quit. I'm not even gonna lie with you right now. This game almost got me to quit. I was so close to not buying WWE 2K19, but my other friends, they convinced me to at least give it a shot so we can play together online. Eventually I caved. Literally the night before it came out, I caved and said, fuck it, I will get it. That's how close it came. So once again, I'm going to keep it real with you guys. You know I don't lie. I am the realest motherfucking G on the YouTube internet. Okay? I will give props where props are deserved. WWE 2K19 is by far, and I mean by far, there is no doubt in my mind, that WWE 2K19 is the best game in the franchise. Now, hold on now. It's not great. It's far from it. Yeah, and if I was counting 2K14, this would be a very, very different story. See, I'm going to be nice and not count 2K14 because it's not really their game. So I can say that 2K19 was their best accomplishment. But the My Career was a serious improvement. Oh my God. It improved. They finally got it. They finally made a good My Career. It wasn't very long. You didn't have many choices of what you wanted to do, but at least it wasn't boring like the other ones. It was an entertaining story. Took long enough. Seriously, think about that for a minute. It took them 5 years to actually get a good career mode. Like, Jesus Christ. And the problem is that once you finished My Career, it just went back to being typical old 2K. There was nothing else to do. The gameplay is still the same thing that it was since 2K15. The evolution of these games is almost non-existent. Like I said, they really are interchangeable. Every single yearly WWE video game since 2K15 and up shared the same foundation that they were built on. And I think that right there is what got the developers Yuke's to kind of say they had enough. Yuke's publicly announced that they wanted to kind of upgrade the games and take it to a different direction that they hadn't been before, but 2K had absolutely no interest in doing that. And that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. That is quite possibly the most 2K thing I've ever heard. All 2K is concerned about is getting the yearly requirements updated and done, and that's it. They have absolutely no interest in creating a game that's worthwhile or meaningful or creative in the slightest. They just want to do what they have to do to get the money. And this isn't just me being a salty fan. No. This is actually real. According to Justin Leeper, who was the creative director on SmackDown vs. Raw 2009, 2010, and 2011 Road to WrestleMania mode, he has actually decided to share some of his experiences working on the WWE games by making videos on YouTube. He has gone above and beyond to praise his team that he worked with at Yuke's to get the yearly WWE video game out on time and with good quality. He said that some of the guys at Yuke's would literally stay overnight, not go home, and continue to work on these games to make sure that they were good. And that is a team that cares. That is a team that is passionate about the game that they are making. This is why everybody loved the SmackDown vs. Raw series, because they were made by wrestling fans for wrestling fans. And THQ gave them the platform to do that. But once THQ left the picture and 2K entered it, it was the worst thing that could have possibly ever happened to the WWE games, because that meant these games are no longer a passion project. They're no longer a product of a team that puts the player first. Yuke's were no longer able to create the games that they wanted. And after 2K19 being literally the 5th version of the same game, that is where Yuke's and 2K decided to part ways. And oh shit, 2K needs to make WWE 2K20. Dude, they have to make the yearly game. They got to get it out next year. What are they gonna do? The same developers that have been making the games for like 20 fucking years are now gone. What are they gonna do? Hire Visual Concepts, because they've never made a wrestling video game. They'll know exactly what to do. Like, you see what's happening here, right? This is heading nowhere good. 2K expected Visual Concepts to come in, give them Yuke's foundation of work, and basically just make a new game out of it. When they have no idea how any of it works, they have less than a year to get this done. And there's the pressure of expectations from fans for, obviously, a quality game. How the fuck did they even go through with this game? This is the definition of a recipe for disaster. How did they not see this coming? As the months went by, rumors and news for WWE 2K20 were pretty much non-existent. There was nothing coming out of 2K's mouths about this game. They were keeping this shit under lock and key. They had something to hide. Usually the first thing that we get to catch a glimpse of every year when 2K is promoting the game is an in-game screenshot. And we didn't even get that. Something was just very off about this game. They were being overly secretive. And then the YouTube influencers put out their videos about their thoughts on WWE 2K20 before it came out. And every single one of them said it was not good. And I was just like, oh my god, this is the last thing that this franchise needs right now. They cannot afford another flop. This series of games was already not in a great spot. It was in a place where it already needed massive improvement, and they could not afford a flop. I was convinced of it. If we had another WWE 2K15, this franchise is gonna die. So things were not looking good for WWE 2K20. October came, the game was released, and yes, I did buy it. And I bought it for one reason and one reason only. It was to see what Visual Concepts would do with this game. I genuinely was just curious to see the clusterfuck that was about to unfold. When I tried to play the game, I noticed that the hit detection in my match pretty much didn't even exist. I also noticed that when I went into the creation suite, custom logos weren't even a thing. They were not working. So I immediately went to community creations to see what people were creating, and the entire community creations was full of cause that looked like 8-year-olds created. Face paint was not loading in the game, and even if it did load in the game, it would come in with the wrong colors. I haven't played My Career yet, but it looks like a PS2 game, and everyone says it's cheesy as fuck. Even the soundtrack is the worst soundtrack in any wrestling video game, literally ever. Create a Championship was not in the game yet because they needed more time to program it. Becky Lynch looks like she belongs in a nightmare. This game is a bona fide piece of shit. And these are just a few things. I could go on forever about things that are wrong with this game, but I'm not going to. Like I said, this is not a 2K20 rant, but I really have to emphasize how bad this game is compared to the others. I really don't know how this passed inspection actually gets sold on shelves, but unfortunately, it did. And it got slammed in the reviews. Critics hated it, fans hated it, even the influencers that get paid to talk about it hated it. And I stopped playing 2K20 after 3-4 days? I think something like that. This game broke my heart. Like, straight up. This killed something inside of me that I still can't really describe, but it's not alive anymore, whatever it is. What happened to WWE Games, man? I never thought we would get this low, ever. Now, obviously, look, I understand the predicament they were in. Visual Concepts was literally thrown in with zero clue about how to work any of this. They were faced with an impossible task, and I understand that. But going back to the bigger picture, the bigger problem is that 2K couldn't afford to have these transitional years, no matter what the excuses or circumstances were. The game eventually ended up going on sale super duper early, and they tried literally everything to try to win the audience back so they would buy this game. But no matter what 2K did, every single social media post of theirs got bombarded by fans saying fix the goddamn game, and the least they could do is keep the 2K19 servers up. And as of this video, they are still up. Oh, God. WWE 2K21 has officially been canceled, and it is definitely 100% the right call. They already have no business pushing these games out yearly, but as of right now, they need to go back to the drawing board. And I mean it. I mean, they need to go back to square fucking one. They need to rebuild this from the ground up. And I know they're now working on WWE Battlegrounds, which is going to replace WWE 2K21 this year, but I smell bullshit. I think 2K views WWE Battlegrounds as a lower budget alternative just for this year so they can save money and try to revive the 2K series. So then maybe WWE 2K22 could be made and released. But in my humble opinion, I don't want that. I don't want 2K to continue making the WWE games. I want a new team, I want a new take, a fresh take, and a completely new game. I don't think 2K deserves to keep making these games. If anything, WWE Battlegrounds should be their apology, but then they should fade off into the sunset and never be seen again. Bring back Ukes, because they actually know what they're doing. And then whoever the new publisher is, hopefully, they give them their creative freedom. My man, my lord, my savior, my lover, Justin Leeper, deserves to work his magic once again on the WWE games. Instead of these cookie-cutter corporate criminals to fun. You just know the guys working at 2K are the type that wake up, roll out of bed, go to their perfectly color-coordinated closets, and then are greeted with their wives outside to smell the freshly cut grass in their front lawn, all while sipping on their cream and no-sugar coffee. Their opening line of the day is "Wonderful weather we're having," as they trot to their BMWs to head off to work. You just know they're all that guy. And we need less of those guys. We need more guys like Justin and more guys like the team at THQ. Because right now, WWE games have never been worse. I miss being excited for my tradition every year. And now, I won't have to worry about that because there will be no WWE 2K21. And boy, is that depressing or what. If you've actually made it to the end here, thank you for watching this convoluted clusterfuck of a video. Let's just hope that one day we can rejoice with good WWE video games once again. The future does look bright with many alternatives coming with Virtual Basement's indie wrestling game and AW planning a video game. But as of right now, all we can do is wait.